GaHee, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you? Thank
I'm doing very well. Thanks so much for joining us today.
you for
Where,
having me.
where are you right now?
I live in Montreal, so I'm in Montreal.
Nice.
I'm at home. I was going to have this studio, but there was a construction, so I decided to do it at my house.
Beautiful. Thanks for having us. I was flipping through your social media, your Instagram, and your latest picture is
Hmm.
a work of yours, I believe, titled "Woman on a Beach and at Dawn," and that
Yes,
was presented at Art Basel, Paris, just a few
yes,
weeks ago.
yeah.
Now, one thing about your work that fascinates me is that when I see the subject matter, I want to get to know that person. I want to get to know the relationship they're in it. So, what can you tell me about that woman on that painting?
uh, so I paint figures and like kind of in a narrative, surreal way. Uh, but I don't really think about the figures as a figure. I think about it as a subject matter,
Hmm.
like a part of like a idea of. I think about it as a idea of still life, part of still life. So I don't have any model for my work, but I just go to museums or like church temples or kind of a man-made art, and I study like figures expression, uh, or like I just hold those faith in me and then kind of brew inside of me for like years or a while, sometimes immediately actually. Uh, then I start to make image. Yeah, yeah I start, but those figures I don't start with um drawings. I start with just like directly and just see the interaction while I'm working.
Yeah, yeah. I always wondered if sometimes if it helps create a background story for the subject matter, right? For that case, that a woman, where she's from, what's her
Yeah.
relationship with the space that she's in it, like more of a human
Mhm.
connection of being a character with on her own story.
Yeah. Where I was mainly thinking about the time dusk. It's been like my interest of the time is very interesting for me because it started when I was getting a lot of mosquito bite, uh, and realized it's the time that everything is very alive before the darkness come. And I just think about it as like the most like lively time, time of I guess I was like trying to um, connect with kind of beauty in human or like something like the prime time, before we all die. so, so yeah, so it's when I think about the time dusk, the light is very specific. So like I think about the light and the memory of like my friend or me at the beach, like that time, like totally relaxed, or like thinking about those paintings or sculptures I see in museums. So I just put them together. I don't know. I try to think about making a moment. Yeah, I don't know if that's making sense.
Yes, I want to explore a little bit about this idea of making a moment because we live a busy life with many, many
Hmm.
distractions more than ever.
Hmm.
And how are you going about finding those moments? It's more bringing awareness to the present, is
Hmm.
perhaps including friends and families and dear ones to be part of your
Hmm.
life.
Mm.
How do you ground yourself to be able to observe the moment you're in, and then later find an opportunity to express that through your art?
Um, so I had a very hectic childhood, I would say. I didn't learn how to relax or like be myself. I don't know. I'm from Korea, South Korea, Seoul, and I don't know if you know how those kids grow up in Seoul. You know, you study for like 20 hours a day. You
Yeah.
don't have sleep, you know. I don't know, especially my time, like we were not able to sleep. uh, so, and my parents don't know how to relax at all. So, kind of having that moment for me is still very hard. That's why I'm very obsessed with it.
Mm.
So yeah. So, but yeah, it's more like a meditative state uh, I want to find. I haven't found.
Well, glimpse of it, right? Throughout the time, you get a glimpse of those moments. It makes sense you're saying that because the upbringing, also there's a cultural element to that as well, as you mentioned. There's very high expectation for kids in Korea, so
Mhm.
education is the highest priority. And as you brought it up earlier, so when you find those moments, you just want to treasure them. You really
Yes,
want to kind of frame them, like literally, no pun intended, put on the wall and frame those
right.
moments.
I mean, like, it's such you feel almost guilty when you have the moment. And that's so sweet when you feel. I mean, I grew up very Catholic, so that's kind of like my brain works. You know, like, oh, something very pleasurable, I'll feel guilty. What is this? Then, like,
Yes.
I have to go through it.
A little bit of that old fashioned Catholic guilt.
Yes. No,
But the interesting thing, if you don't mind talking a little bit more about your background, what it was like for you as a teenager, knowing that there was so much expectation riding on you academically, but you being interested in art. I'm sure those conversations with your parents, for example, how was it?
uh, where weirdly, my parents want me to do something to do with art, music, because it's a sexist society. They think a woman doing something sensitive would make them like survive better, marry better, marry someone nice. I don't know. Um, so my parents sent me to piano school for a long time, but I really was so mad all the time because I really sucked at every single time. I mean, I don't know, like time just stopped while I was in the practice. But then I realized I'm very like happily like making little drawings in a book, So I realized I can't pa- play piano, so I want to learn art. So it was kind of easy, but at the same time, like I don't know, the school system you have to like go to academy after school for like 8 hours to get into school. So my teenage life was all about going to academy, and then I had like private tutors to learn um, math or English
Hmm.
to to get into the exam. So it's just I just went for it.
Yes. Was that a specific moment you mentioned before that piano was hard for you, but and then you realized you wanted to pursue art? I was just wondering if there was something that you saw or someone that
Mm.
inspired you to truly pursue that career path.
Kind of, yes. So in my, I think it was late elementary school. We had our very early middle school. We had this like art class to like mimic copying masterpiece. So everyone did the monk screaming. But I
Oh
did
yes.
but I did something Renoir. I painted Renoir. It was like the first time I actually painted. And then when I was like walking home, people were like screaming at me like how nicely I painted. And actually that gave me a lot of excitement.
It's
So
funny.
like yes.
I guess everybody was drawing and painting the screen one because that's how they felt inside. Projecting like please. But that was kind of going to ask my next question. If that the painting, that aspect of creating art came natural to you, was something that you had
Yes.
in an early age, was, 'cause some people have really have to work very hard, and I'm sure you have
Mm.
it as well, but some people just naturally already have that talent.
I I I I thought I had a talent when I was growing up because everyone just think, oh, she's the one like in the you know in the corner just like draw something. Then I went to art school. I went to art school from the beginning, like college. I went to art school in America. Like I went to graduate school, so it felt very like normal for me. But then you keep seeing like truly, truly genius people while you're at school. So yeah, it's I felt like okay, I'm not that talented, but I kept doing it because it's I had nothing else I can do. Like I don't know how to use computer. I don't know how to I don't know how to do anything. So like I went for it.
You found your purpose. Do you believe in that though? And now, outside of religion, outside everything else, do you believe that we're brought to this world for a specific purpose, or not
Mm,
really?
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
I yeah, I do. Otherwise, I don't know. I will be confused.
What was like the cultural change for you? Because as you mentioned, you grew up in Korea, which is a very different upbringing than then you come to America. A very different society, very different way to interact, and engage with people as well. Were you
Yes.
excited to leave your bubble? Were you kind of a little afraid of it as well, leaving your comfort zone? Or what was like for you those first few years?
I think so. I think I was pretty depressed when I was a child. I was like really didn't know what to do. My parents were very Catholic and and like, pretty strict, I would say. And I just wasn't. I felt like I wasn't like I was not allowed to express properly because I was like afraid of someone would criticize me. So when I moved to America, I mean, and nobody cared about me, so so that was a little bit. Uh, that was a kind of a. I felt relieved when I moved, but then it's kind of lonely to start. But at the same time, I felt like I can handle that. I don't know why. So yeah, I felt like there was exchange like, oh, do you want to feel depressed or do you want to feel like lonely in America? So I was like a kind of juggling in between. And then I felt less lonely, more like more years passed by. I felt less lonely. So I got used to America.
You said about being afraid of being criticized. What's your relationship with the criticism today? You are an environment that there are a lot of critiques and there's a lot of opinions about art and work in general. How do you digest those, and how have you involved looking at those criticisms those days?
um, you mean being in America or
I mean, in
being
general,
in
criticism of
general?
your work. What are you
Yeah.
doing? all of those things, have you managed them a little bit better now that you are
Mm-hmm.
older and wiser? It's still part of
Mm-hmm.
something that kind of, when you're creating something, when you do something, you're always thinking about what other people will say.
Yeah. Where I was not like afraid of criticism for paintings, but that like the social gaze in Korea was something I was not like I was not be able to handle. Like I think I'm very feminist, for example. But like if you say you're feminist, you are actually buried in socially like outcasted, and I don't think it's easy to win over that in Korea. Uh, yeah, so like whenever I show in Korea, I feel a little bit like tense. But I just like I just let it happen and see what's gonna come to me. So usually that was fine. But yeah, I have like this inner enemies or like inner criticism. Because I lived in Korea so long and I know what people think. I guess it's a kind of like it it's built in your head in a way, and I have to get out of it. So that's my practice. I don't know if that's making sense.
Yes, and that kind of leads to my next question: is the fact that perhaps how people will react to what you're
Yeah.
creating. Does that maybe censor your point of view, make you perhaps tone it down some of your work because you know what's going to happen,
Mm.
or perhaps even the opposite? You decided, no,
Yeah,
I'm
I
going to
do
push it
hope.
even further. I want to be more provocative. Those things kind of lean in terms of how you decided to pursue it.
Yeah, I think I try to act like a kind of innocent, like act like I don't know anything, so that I can act like, oh, you deal with it. I didn't know that. So I guess that's my strategy. I act like I'm innocent.
Yeah, you play naive.
Yeah, naive.
Yeah.
Yes.
The funny thing, I'm also an immigrant. I'm from Brazil originally. I've been in the United States for 20 years. But for many years, I always play naive. People say something I'm not supposed to do, but I did it anyway. I was like, oh, I don't,
Yes.
it was English. I don't speak English very well. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Oh, no, no problem. I won't do it again. They say that's easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Yes. Yeah. So
So it has been a trick
yeah.
of mine as well. I'm like, nah, oh, I'm sorry. I don't speak English very well. And fully aware what I was doing.
Exactly. It's a little underworld we all play with.
Yes, you gotta play the cards you have.
Yeah. It's
um,
pretty fun.
Critics have described your art as a taboo breaking. How do you
Oh.
respond to those characterizations?
I mean, I'm very, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, like, myself is a very scared person. Like, but I guess I can do better with the image,
Mhm.
making image. So it's good. I mean, with my verbally, something I can't do, I can't say. My paintings can say for me, which is I'm very thankful. Yes, but I have to think how I did it always.
Many of your pieces feature, partially obscured or fragments of bodies. Uh, what does this say about your view in human intimacy, and vulnerability in
Intimacy.
general?
Uh, I guess I was when I start to draw when I was child, I was always quiet and never show to anyone because uh, I felt like wrong. So I did draw a lot of body parts
Hmm.
because it intrigued me without knowing why. So I became like habitual to paint body parts. Uh, I I find I find the human body extremely beautiful, and I don't know. Like a it's also like when I paint the part, it's from different point of view. It can be different point of view, different time. So I can play with that kind of surreal, like surreal, uh, surreal element.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. So I forgot what's your question. I was
You said also to that you see yourself as a feminist.
yeah.
Do you think that has been changing in terms of what a feminist is today than perhaps it was when, we assume we're the same age, when we were growing up? Has that been evolving?
Yes, I think so. Um, I'm Yeah, it's a very hard question for me because I've been thinking about it a lot these days. Because I I think about myself not victim in a way that than I used to be. Um, so I want to help marginalized people more, like not just a woman. Just I'm thinking about like what what the human society or what this uh, the structure of the world have done to marginalized things, like animals, human, and all kind of human, even a lot of men. Um, yeah, so I think about myself feminist, but yeah, I'm more like going into thinking about like human like intersection. I don't know the name of the uh, term, but intersectional like feminism,
Hmm.
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, no. You have also mentioned feeling like an outsider in the art world. Can you
Mm,
elaborate on these feelings and give an example how it has manifested it before?
mm. But I'm not a sister, I don't like socializing, but I think you have to kind of socialize for a while to be an artist in New York because I lived in New York for a long time, and that really didn't fit my practice. I have to be totally alone as much as possible to like have that rhythm and like a routine to be able to paint. So it's very sensitive line that I have to keep going for a long time. And yeah, so I I just can't socialize, uh, just have to be. Yeah, I can't socialize. So maybe that's why I'm outside.
Do you do you feel, obviously there always a little bit of an anxiety and impression right before an opening of a new
Mhm.
exhibition, but a lot of times you're there, and part of the job on that evening is to socialize, is to talking to people,
Yes,
collectors, impress. um, how do you cope with that? I mean, do you prepare yourself mentally? You kind of give yourself some
yes.
time to breathe? I mean, how are you dealing with the circumstances that really much comes with the job?
Where I do talk therapy for to get through that, which you have to go through my childhood anxiety, which helps me a lot. So just I still get anxious, but um, understanding why it makes me anxious. helps you so much. So yeah, so I do therapy. I try to put mask.
Uh,
Yeah.
but that's an interesting thing because it's a self-observation that you needed to address that something that's bothering you, right? And you seek help to make sure that you can endure those situations a little bit easier. How
Mhm,
old were you that you realized, you know what, this is something that I'm not comfortable with, but I know it's part of my
mm,
work and I need to find, the tools and the people to support me to make sure that while I'm doing those things, I'm still,
mm.
in a good mental health and I'm enjoying myself because at the end of the day, we hope, we do that throughout our lives.
But yes, I figured out that I didn't like to be social when I was in graduate school. Uh, and I realized that a lot of artists are like me,
Mhm.
I, you know, needs a lot of space, uh, you know, isolation, protections. Um, so when I graduated, I wanted to build that boundary. So I moved out and moved to Canada because my husband is Canadian. We wanted to, yeah, we wanted to go somewhere new and build, I don't know, reconstruct something. I would have done that if I was American. I would have done that in Philadelphia, because you can kind of I know that town very well.
Yeah.
So
How has that changed? Because you said New York is a very chaotic business city, and it comes to our world, it's very much one of the major cities where big
mhm,
artists, galleries, and collectors are living. So it requires a lot of socializing, dinners, and networking, that sort of thing that comes along. But for you, moving to Canada, or if you weren't going to Canada, to another city like Philadelphia, has that changed your work, or it is your process of work? Has you have find more time to think about your
mhm.
creative process?
Yes, first of all, I don't have to commute too much. Like I used to commute like 1 hour to get to my studio in New York. It's like I almost killed myself. I'm kidding. Uh, but that I don't have to do that. So I have so much bigger space and a studio, which when you are painting, you also have to look at your painting in different angles, far away, very close. You have to, I mean, that's like very important for me. And I was not able to have the space. Uh, so yeah, that's a big difference, I think.
Do you think that perhaps things are changing, through social media and the internet, there's more opportunities for artists, but to be considered a serious artist, a blue chip artist, for
Mhm.
example, do you need to be in a major city?
Yes, because of you have to actually meet people, collectors, directors, gallery directors, curators. I mean, like, I feel like I would have take a lot of advantage if I lived in New York now because I I can meet a lot of people. Uh, but I gave up that instead. Instead, I wanted to give myself a lot of time because I felt like that's very important for my practice.
What does your day look like then? What is the first thing you do in the morning? What give me like a whole routine, what a normal,
It's,
you know,
it's so
Monday looks
boring.
like.
So I wake up at 7. I mean, it's just like how people work. I wake up 7 and I go to exercise. I have to do exercise because I hold my arm for like 10 hours a day.
Hmm.
So I do exercise for like 1 hour every day. And then I just take entire morning at home, reading and like just lounging. Then I go to studio at like 1 or 2. until like 10. And I bring all the I
Mhm.
bring all the lunch boxes. I bring all the dinner. I don't want to get out once I'm in it. So I prepare for like that time to be in the studio, you know. Yeah. So that's my day. So I come home at 9, 10, sleep. That's it.
I've been noticing a little bit that we're talking about your really dedication to your craft, but also being able to acknowledge the things that you need to work on in terms of you mentioned before, like socializing, therapy, make sure you can
Mhm.
handle that, but also exercising so you can, keep your hand up for 10 hours a day. You look
Yeah.
into all those, implementing all those different tools to make sure that you can be at your best at what you do, even though those are
Yes.
outside your work.
Yes. I mean, I realized I was getting extremely ill because of my imbalance of my body, you know. So, you don't notice it when you're young. In 20s, you just slowly like, oh my God, I'm gonna be paralyzed someday if I don't do anything. So that's why I started exercise, like seriously doing exercise. Yeah. But yeah, to paint.
Everything's for painting.
Yes. Yeah, I'm crazy about painting. Actually, it's very hard, but because I don't think there's like an end. Uh, my goal has no end.
Mhm.
I will paint probably until I die. It's just a very, very intriguing way of living, I think. So it's fun.
Some of your work also explore the theme of desire and power dynamics. And
Mhm.
I'm curious about how these concepts relate to your personal experience throughout life in our world,
Mm.
gatekeepers, that sort of thing that will,
Yes.
patriarch, like a lot of male dominated industry that make the decisions. That's still the case. Hopefully it's getting better, but it's still much the case. How has been your experience in
Yes.
accounting those, being someone who see herself as a feminist, but also an outsider from our world?
I think I like to. I'm not a like a fighter or like I don't fight, but I like to. Uh, I think I like to give a like example that like the way the example of the way to resist of that kind of react of that kind of like patriarchal like structure.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, yeah, but in a very like uh, my own way, I would say, because I'm not like aggressive. I used to think I'm very aggressive, but I'm more like kind of. Uh, uh, I'm more like bearing in here and like be sarcastic and make a joke about it. I think I'm more that kind of person. And yeah.
If you have the opportunity to talk to the next generation, I'm sure you also talk to a lot of younger, upcoming artists that look up to you.
Mhm.
What are some of the advices you give to them or to the next generation of artists that really struggling to find themselves in an environment who's so digitalized that there is so
Yes.
much new things happening with AI and the market and all those things are changing so rapidly to find their voices and being able to have a fulfilling career.
Um, I guess you have to, because I watch a lot of old film, and I go to museum all the time, read, and it's getting harder, because you're so tempted to buy, short short videos and stuff. But I guess you have to really discipline. Yeah, because I discipline so much because I don't want to go movies all the time or watch 3 hours like a silence movie, something like that. But it, I think more you are exposed to that kind of rich culture, you can have more choice. Uh, yeah. So I'm also I never learned technology properly,
Mhm.
which I'm kind of lucky.
I heard once someone saying, I can't remember where, that discipline is equals freedom. That if you're very disciplined about things you want to do, you will find the freedom to pursue everything else you want to. Do you kind of agree with that a little bit?
Yes, I do. I do. I do. I think it's I want to make something very simple form at the end of my year, let's say. But to make that very interesting, you have to really find a struggle with a lot of thought to be simple. So yeah, I totally agree. It's hard.
It is. It's an interesting concept, right? You have to restrain yourself with discipline and determination so you can enjoy freedom. It's an interesting thing too. But I think I agree with you on that as well. Um, what are the other themes or ideas are you excited to explore in upcoming projects? What's next for you?
Upcoming project. Mm, I don't have like a project based, so I just keep working. So and then almost like a developing ideas. Uh, but I want to make images that are, like as I say, simplify, but like holds a lot of things. Uh, yeah, and um, so I maybe more like honest with my like using my like personal resources to a painting, but like not bothered by my original like thought. But I don't know. It's, it's very abstract.
Let me ask a question about this. We had a guest, an artist in our podcast, Ignacio Montreal. He's from Barcelona, and he made a very interesting comment that until for most of history, the masterpieces that we see today, they were all commission based. Artists weren't quite
Yes.
allowed to express themselves. They were paid to commission to create something, and that's all the art that we can look previous 20th century. It's basic
Mhm.
commission based.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's very much the opposite. We don't find a lot
Mhm.
of artists represented by galleries or they're being auctioned doing that type of work. What do you think about the specific of that? Are you open to commissions? Is that something that you do, or you prefer just kind of stay within your own realm? Some artists perhaps limiting
Mhm.
themselves to not being open to do more work, collaborative work with a
Mhm.
client like that.
Mhm. It's very interesting. Um, I feel like I can answer something. Where the previous generation, like a long time ago, everything was commissioned through like through religious reason or some like rich people wanna
Yes.
have a, but then like but so there was like a structure of that you have to make a certain image, right? Because they want to make certain image about like you know if it's an icon, you have to have a like a mother hold baby, something like that.
Yeah.
But then these artists, the masterpieces are like naughty, they put their own things in like a little by little, right? That's and then we recognize who made this and what they are thinking about. I uh, I feel like because of I'm I don't know, like, and not generally, but I am, uh, I respond these kind of like art histories. It's like I feel like art practice is a continuation of the from through the history. You are kind of still in that commission in a way, in a way, like abstract way, you're in a commission. uh, so, but then like, yeah, you're doing your own thing. But yeah, that's I don't know what I was gonna say, but yeah, but yeah, it's kind of an interesting question.
It's often something that I think because when I talk to a lot of guests, everybody's saying that sometimes like limitation, problem solving, created opportunities for creativity, right? If you give it
Mhm.
certain parameters, people are forced to think outside the box. They're forced to create something
Mm.
new. And a lot of times the most unique pieces or the most innovations come that way. And in an
Yeah,
industry who was very much based for centuries, enough thousands of years, was commission based, which means you had to follow a certain structure to be able to
yeah,
express your vision, and that way force
mm,
yourself to have, as you mentioned, the masters to be able a little bit naughty, to put a little bit
yeah,
of their own spin on that, and slowly being created a little bit more of being create more innovation with their work. We now live in a world the artists can express however they want and use any
yeah,
material, any medium, shape or form. You don't even have to be understand or understood. You can just do,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
That perhaps going back to an element of more of a framework could open up
mm,
opportunities for even not only innovation but also deeper understanding of the craft, more of the technical aspect of it as well. I don't know, I'm not an artist, it's just someone who talks to a lot of people can start thinking about all the ideas and options out there.
yeah. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I don't really think about that kind of things that much, to be honest.
Hmm.
Uh, I feel like I'm repeating all the time, like from the beginning. I'm painting the same thing every day, every year. But then I'm the only one thinking I'm repeating and painting the same thing. Other people don't see that way. But yeah, I think it's like a kind of different kind of a process. Everyone has different process.
Hmm.
But I think it's hard because you're you're responsible for making process. Nobody teaches you. Nobody tells you how to do it. You have to create this process and kind of have to live with that. And if it doesn't fit you, it's hard to live, to be an artist. So yeah,
And I think that's why sometimes is the beauty of your work is that, as you mentioned before, you feel like you're doing the same thing. So you have your parameters, you have your boundaries you work with. So your only goal is to really improve that craft and to get better at what you already are good at. Now if you were to compare your work 10 years from now from today, and as you mentioned before, it's pretty much kind of the same framework you're doing, what aspect in the technical aspect do you think has been improved? The coloring, the lining, the composition, what are the things that you
yeah.
think you can see the evolution of your work?
Like you say, coloring, yeah, compositions. Um, I guess I'm more confident and not confused about that kind of repetition. I think I learned that through, you know, like other artists, I guess, or uh, more like filmmakers or uh, like the literatures that I like to uh, dig in one writers or artist to see how, or like go to museum to see like uh, entire body of work of artist, because it gives you confidence, that you're allowed to do that. That's your freedom to do it. You're not making one show at a time. You're like you're you're having evolution, and that kind of repetition is very necessary. I used to be a little bit scared of repetition. Yeah. Uh, yeah, like yeah, it's like I guess yeah.
Uh, you mentioned cinema, literature, artists, and everything. So, who are some of your idols?
Um, I like filmmakers. I like Luis Buñuel.
Hmm.
He's Spanish and moved to Mexico. It's very surreal. I love his film. Uh, Robert Bresson, uh, French, and Hong Sang-soo is a Korean director. They're like all art film. And yeah, and the writers, what I like. I I like uh, I I was very shocked when I read this writer called Witold Gombrowicz. He's a Polish writer. It's very surreal and like uh, 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 it doesn't make sense, but like it makes sense in your brain. Um, I'm recently very obsessed with Thomas Bernhard, uh, and Kreisner Holke. He's a Hungarian writer, but I'm slowly reading these people. Yeah.
If you have the chance to travel back in time and meet your younger self back in Korea, what would you tell her?
Um, just, relax. Don't be afraid. It's okay. Something like that.
Yeah. So there's three questions I ask everybody in the show, and I wanted to recommend us a few things. You kind of cover a little bit previously, but that's the specific things for us to go check it out. So I wanted to recommend us a book. It can be one of your favorites or something that you read recently. Okay.
Mhm.
Something to watch, a movie, TV show, a documentary.
TV show.
And the last but not least, our next guest. Who do you think we should have here next?
Wow. Okay. I think people. I don't know if it's a. I don't know what to recommend. I don't really watch recent. Uh, it's very quick. I'm sorry. I need to think about it a little bit. Uh, I watched a very amazing film recently by Guy Martin. He's a Canadian filmmaker. I'm sorry. I need to look at the
Yeah, no
title.
worries.
I was in a New York Film Festival to see that film. Um, it's called Rumors. Guy Martin Rumors. It's hilarious. The book. Uh, what is? I guess I'm very obsessed with Kreisner Hulkai Laszlo. Um, Satan Tango. I mean, it was came out 10 years
Yeah.
ago, and I like that book a lot. That was my recent reading. Yeah.
And what about
And
guests? Who do you think? Who do you like to
uh,
see here next?
next, um, can I just say my favorite artist, living
Yes.
artist, Huma Baba?
Oh, there you go. We got to
You know,
work on that one.
it's hard. I went to her talk recently in New York,
Mhm.
and it was good. I learned a lot how to talk about art.
Beautiful. Guy, thank you so much for joining us. I know this is something that perhaps doesn't come easy for you to be talking a lot about your work and yourself.
I'm learning. Yeah, I think I got a little better at talking because few years ago I did a interview and I was like frozen.
But you know, I
But I think I was less frozen.
you beyond that, clearly you're someone who's very aware of yourself in terms of becoming better, doing better, at least challenging yourself. You know, and I think we can all admire you for that. Beyond, we all enjoy and admire your work as it is. Now get the chance to know the person a little bit more and admire that person for what she's accomplishing and the work that she's doing herself to continue to improve and do better, not only for her craft but for her own, for family and for the loved ones and all of that. So I want to thank you so much. I had a great time talking to you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
There you go. We're done.